It was the one night of the year that glittered with promise for everyone, except for Claire Benson. Unlucky in love, she had sworn off dating, convinced that romance wasn't in the cards for her. But when her best friend begs her to try one more time and agrees to set her up on a blind date, Claire reluctantly agrees. She walks into the cozy bistro on Christmas Eve, expecting another disappointing night. Instead, she finds her world turned upside down in the most unexpected way. Title: A woman unlucky in love agrees to go on a blind date on Christmas Eve, but when she arrives, she discovers her date is. Claire Benson had never been the kind of woman who was swept off her feet by romance. At 34, she was a successful graphic designer living in New York City, with a small but cherished group of friends and a comfortable, albeit lonely, routine. Her relationships, when they did happen, always fizzled out quickly, and the last breakup had been the final straw. After years of fleeting connections and heartbreak, she had decided to put love on the back burner. It wasn't that Claire didn't want love, she craved it, but every relationship seemed to end in disappointment. The men she dated were never who she hoped they would be. One was distant, the next was unfaithful, and another couldn't commit. With every failed relationship, Claire's heart became more guarded, her trust harder to win. Her self-esteem, once solid, had begun to crack under the weight of rejection and doubt. Her best friend, Anna, a hopeless romantic, had always encouraged Claire to keep trying. So when Anna called her 2 weeks before Christmas with a proposition, Claire had rolled her eyes but agreed to listen. "Claire, I've got the perfect guy for you. He's kind, smart, funny, and best of all, he's looking for something serious. I've arranged for you two to meet at that new bistro downtown, La Lumiere, on Christmas Eve. Trust me, this one's different." Reluctantly, and against her better judgment, Claire had said yes. Maybe it was the holiday spirit, or maybe it was the way Anna had begged her, but something made her agree. She told herself that she wouldn't get her hopes up. It was just one date. And after all, what were the chances that this one would be any different from the others? But as the days passed, a small flicker of hope ignited within her. Christmas Eve was a magical night, after all. Who knew? Maybe the magic of the season would work in her favor. The night of the date arrived, and New York City was aglow with festive lights. The streets were bustling with holiday shoppers, children pulling at their parents' hands, and couples walking hand in hand, smiling at each other with the joy of the season. Claire, dressed in a simple yet elegant red dress and her favorite black coat, felt a knot of nervous anticipation in her stomach. When she arrived at La Lumiere, the bistro was as cozy and charming as Anna had described. Twinkling fairy lights adorned the windows, and the smell of pine and freshly baked bread filled the air. The hostess smiled at her as she entered, asking if she was meeting someone. "Yes, I have a reservation under Benson," Claire replied, her voice betraying the anxiety she felt. "Of course. Your date is already here," the hostess said, motioning to a corner table by the window. Claire's heart skipped a beat as she followed her, wondering what he would look like, if their conversation would flow easily, and if, just maybe, this could be the beginning of something real. But when she reached the table, her heart stopped altogether. Sitting there, looking just as shocked as she felt, was Jason Hill, her ex-fiancé. Claire's knees went weak, and for a moment, she considered turning around and walking out of the restaurant. This couldn't be happening. Of all people, why him? She hadn't seen Jason in nearly 5 years, not since the day they had called off their wedding. The man who had broken her heart so completely was sitting in front of her, on what was supposed to be a fresh start. Jason's face was a mix of surprise and something else, regret. Pain. Whatever it was, Claire didn't want to see it. Her heart raced, her thoughts spinning as she tried to process the situation. How had Anna not known? How could this happen? Claire, Jason said, standing up slowly, his voice uncertain. I didn't know it was you. Neither did I, she managed to reply, her voice shaky but controlled. She glanced around the restaurant, looking for a way out, but something stopped her. Maybe it was curiosity, or the fact that she hadn't been able to fully forget Jason, no matter how hard she tried. She had 2 options: walk away from this uncomfortable reunion or face the ghosts of her past head-on. After a long, tense moment, she took a breath and sat down. I guess we should talk, then, she said, her voice quiet but firm. Jason nodded, sitting back down across from her. The air between them was thick with unspoken words, old wounds, and the heavy weight of what could have been. They ordered wine, both avoiding eye contact for a while as they took tentative sips and tried to ease into conversation. At first, it was awkward. Claire's walls were up, and Jason seemed unsure of how to approach the situation. So, how have you been? He asked, his voice softer than she remembered. Fine, Claire replied curtly. Busy with work. You. Jason looked down at his glass. I've been, okay. Just, working, too. I heard you're doing well with your design business. Claire nodded, the tension still thick between them. But as the conversation progressed, the awkwardness began to dissipate. Slowly, cautiously, they started to talk more openly, their words dipping into the deeper waters of their shared history. Jason finally broke the silence that had weighed on them since they sat down. I've thought about you a lot, Claire. I know it's been a long time, but I've never really forgiven myself for the way things ended between us. Claire froze, her breath catching in her throat. This was the conversation she had avoided for years, the one she had feared would reopen old wounds that she had tried so hard to heal. You were the one who left, Jason, she said quietly, her voice steady but full of emotion. You were the one who said you weren't ready to get married, even after everything we'd been through. I had to pick up the pieces of my life while you walked away. Jason's face was etched with regret. I know. I know I hurt you, and I've regretted it every day since. I wasn't ready then. I thought I was, but I was scared. I thought that if we got married, I'd lose, I don't know, something. Freedom, control over my life. Your heart, Claire said bitterly, remembering the ache of those days. Yeah, he admitted, his voice cracking. I was stupid, Claire. I didn't know how to handle something real. I was afraid of how much I loved you, how much you meant to me. Claire's heart ached with the memories of their past, of the love they had shared, the dreams they had built together, and the pain of losing it all. But at the same time, she felt something else, closure. For the first time in years, Jason was admitting the truth, acknowledging the hurt he had caused. They talked for hours, the wine flowing as they unearthed old memories, both good and bad. They laughed at shared moments, cried over the pain they had inflicted on each other, and, most importantly, began to heal the wounds that had kept them apart. Just as the night seemed to be turning into something redemptive, a new tension entered the air. Jason hesitated, his expression shifting as he fidgeted with his glass. "Claire, there's something I need to tell you. Something I've been keeping to myself." Claire's heart skipped a beat, fear creeping in. "What is it?" Jason exhaled deeply, avoiding her gaze. "I'm married." The words hit her like a punch to the stomach. Her vision blurred as the reality of what he had just said sank in. She felt like she had been tricked, like the hope that had blossomed throughout the evening had been cruelly ripped away. "What?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "You're married?" Jason nodded, his face filled with guilt. "I got married a year ago. But I don't love her the way I loved you. I've been a mess ever since I walked away from us, Claire. I thought marrying someone else would help me move on, but it hasn't. Seeing you again tonight, it's made me realize that I never really let go." Claire stood up, her hands trembling. "So, what is this, Jason? Some sort of twisted reunion? You thought you could have it all, meet me on Christmas Eve, make amends, and then what? Go back to your wife?" Jason reached out for her, but she pulled away. "No, Claire, it's not like that. I didn't know you'd be here tonight. I wasn't trying to." "I don't care what you were trying to do," she said, her voice rising with anger. "I don't care if you didn't know. The fact is, you're married. You made your choice, Jason. You don't get to come back into my life and rip open old wounds just because you regret it now." Tears filled her eyes, and she turned to leave, but Jason called out to her one last time. "Claire, please. I still love you." She paused, her heart breaking all over again, but she didn't turn back. Without another word, she walked out of the restaurant, the cold winter air hitting her face as she stepped into the bustling streets of the city. As Claire walked away from the bistro, her heart heavy with the weight of what had just happened, she felt a strange sense of clarity. It hurt, of course, it hurt more than she could have imagined, but she also knew that this moment had been necessary. For years, she had carried the pain of her broken engagement with her, never fully able to move on. But now, with Jason's truth revealed, she could finally let go. He had been a part of her past, but he didn't belong in her future. His confession of love didn't erase the choices he had made, and it didn't change the fact that he was married to someone else. As she continued walking, the snow began to fall gently around her, coating the city in a soft, white blanket. Claire stopped for a moment, looking up at the sky. The world seemed quieter, more peaceful somehow. Christmas Eve was supposed to be about miracles, about hope and new beginnings. And though tonight hadn't gone as she had expected, Claire realized that she had been given a gift after all, the gift of closure, of knowing that she was ready to move forward without the weight of her past holding her back. And as she turned the corner onto a quiet street, she smiled to herself, knowing that her story wasn't over. Somewhere out there, love was waiting for her. And this time, she would be ready for it. The end.